Determining bids the right way with Google Ads can literally be one of the best things you do to find success with Google Ads for your e-commerce brand. But do it wrong and end up like this e-commerce store right here with flopped results. On the other hand, do it right and achieve great consistent success and sales every single day, just like this e-commerce brand right over here. Now, the really interesting thing is both of these two e-commerce brands had the same kinds of resources available. The one that actually failed had a bigger budget available. But besides these two things, everything else was pretty much the same. The target market was the same, but these two e-commerce brands ended up getting completely different results, and there's only one real reason as to why this happened. One e-commerce brand could not really identify the right bid, and there was just too much going on with the e-commerce brand in total, which led to those kinds of really flopped results, while this e-commerce brand did not know what the right bid was initially. However, after consistent tries, after figuring out exactly what the right bid was, which I'm gonna cover in this video how to do, they finally were able to find consistent success and actually grow to over 6 figures, and that too profitably, which this e-commerce brand had not done. And both of these are current e-commerce clients under my Google Ads agency, Euro Marketing, but more on that later. But exactly what is the reason why bids are so important when it comes to finding good success with e-commerce and Google Ads, and what can you do about it so you find the same kinds of good results as that second brand which was on my screen? Now let's take a step back, and before we actually talk about how to determine your bids, figure out exactly what determines these bids in the first place, because there is a whole big situation going on in the back end which about 99% of e-commerce store owners don't even know about, which kind of ends up becoming the reason for their success or their failure. And this literally starts with the bids. So exactly what is a Google Ads bid and why is it so important? First things first, you want to understand that your bid, whether it's correct or not, basically determines how often you win with Google's auctions, whether you're doing shopping ads or whether you're doing search ads, and how often you actually end up showing for any type of search term that is searched on Google by any given user at any given time. So what a lot of people actually don't know is within that millisecond when you type something up and press enter on your keyboard, there is a quick auction that goes in the back end which you are not aware of, which I am not aware of. It just happens in the back end within that split millisecond, and within that millisecond Google determines based on a variety of different factors whether you end up showing at the top within shopping listings or whether you end up all the way at the back or not even at all. And that auction is determined by a lot of different things, including your quality score, your expected CTR, how much time somebody spends on your landing page, your bids, etc. These things really determine whether you end up showing within the shopping listings or search ads listings or not. But we want to take control of what we can control. In this case, we can control the bids, and we don't want to basically overbid to end up in a loss. So that is something we can control. But again, bids do determine how often you end up winning these kinds of auctions. In addition, bids kind of determine what your overall results are with Google Ads. Now again, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of other things which determine how much success you get overall with Google, but we can't deny that bids is one of the most important things, because even if you have the right landing page with the most amazing product ever, if you decide to bid 5 cents on that given product, chances are very low that you probably won't end up with too many sales, if any at all. So at the end of the day, Google Ads system works on the bid. About 70% of the success is determined by the bid. The rest of the 30, you could say, is determined by all of these other varying factors. And it's super important that you get bidding right, because bid too high and any of these things can happen with your auction or with your product. You can end up fully unprofitable, just not getting any types of profits, even if you're getting revenue from your Google Ads campaigns. Or number 2 scenario, you end up actually overspending your entire budget consistently. And keep in mind, Google Ads has the ability to overspend by 2x your amount, meaning if you set your budget at $50 a day, Google does have the power to spend up to $100 with that campaign. That's just how Google works. And oftentimes if you bid way too high, that is going to end up happening. So you want to kind of control the bids and not really become unprofitable or just overspend when it's not really necessary at all. Number 3 situation is you end up ranking for some kinds of keywords which are too broad because you are just bidding so high that now Google thinks it's right to just showcase your products for these very broad keywords, which often happens when Google's system thinks that you are bidding way overboard and Google has an excess amount of budget that it can go out and test things with. The 4th situation that often happens is that only a small number of items end up getting shown within your shopping listings or with your search ads. Only a small number of ad groups or even small number of ads get shown, and that's simply because when you have a very high bid, now Google just goes full on and tries to spend as much money as possible, and it starts to spend money on things which people are actually clicking on or which it determines has the highest amount of traction. And in this case, traction doesn't necessarily equal sales. So just because you're getting a lot of link clicks, just because you're getting a lot of impressions on a certain thing, Google might actually think that's a good thing even if it's not getting you any sales. And a lot of times what this can do is actually end up just wasting your entire budget day in and day out on those few given things, even though they're not really getting you sales. So that's what happens, these 4 things, when you end up bidding way too high. Now on the opposite spectrum, don't think you're safe just because you're bidding way too low. There are other things that could happen if you end up bidding way too low. Some of these include you risk your ads not showing up for your ideal audience at all, if for any audience in total. Because when your bid is super low, what happens is Google now has to kind of have a conservative approach to making sure you win the auctions with that given bid. And a lot of times, the auctions that you want to be winning for the right kind of keywords, you might just not end up winning them because the bids for those auctions are a bit higher than what you are bidding. And because of that, Google is not able to kind of rank you for them, even if it thinks it's the right kind of keyword to rank you for. And as a result, you end up just ranking for these low-hanging fruits, which might get you sales, but most likely they might end up not spending your entire budget at all. And you might end up in the long run just not getting any sales in general. In addition, you put yourself and your campaigns at a risk of just not spending any budget at all or underspending heavily if you have a certain budget set. And of course, this is going to lead to very limited sales, which you obviously don't want to happen. Third thing is you just risk not getting any results at all, because if you have a very low bid, chances are you're not going to be ranking for the right kind of keywords, or you might just not end up spending any kind of money in general. So these 3 things can definitely happen when you have a way too low of a bid. So it kind of becomes important for you to kind of stay in between these 2 categories and prevent yourself from bidding too high, but also at the same time prevent yourself from bidding too low. And this video, I'm gonna actually be dividing into 2 separate parts. The first part is the shopping campaigns part, and which I'll be talking about very shortly as to how you determine your bids for shopping campaigns. The second part is about search campaigns and how you determine your bids for search campaigns. So let's start off by talking about how to determine these bids for your shopping campaigns. Now, when it comes to shopping campaigns, I actually have 3 different strategies which I kind of go to when I want to determine the right kind of bids. Now, before I actually talk about how to determine the bids, the exact strategies that I use, that I recommend for determining the bids, let's take a step back and understand what strategies I used to recommend when it came to actually testing your products. Now, when it comes to testing your products, I always recommend the 2 general testing campaign route, and I still do to this day, especially if you want to start with standard shopping campaigns on a brand new ad account. And this Shopify store right here, which I have the Google Ads account open for, kind of illustrates that a bit clear. Now, these 2 campaigns right here, these are smart shopping campaigns for this account, but you can kind of play the same strategy with standard shopping campaigns. So one general testing campaign route, which I always recommend, is the high bid campaign with a 40-cent to a 50-cent bid. The second campaign, which should be a low bid campaign, is around a 10-cent bid. And the reason why I recommend that is because with shopping, you don't necessarily have any tools that you can use at your disposal to determine what the bid should be. So this is kind of the best way to kind of get your feet wet and understand if your products are performing or not in general. So you still want to be going about with this strategy, but here's the twist. Now, with a general testing campaign that's a high bid campaign, I recommend that you start the bid at around 50 cents. And this is my first strategy, by the way. There's 2 other strategies, but this first strategy involves you starting one general testing campaign that is a standard shopping campaign at a high bid of 50 cents or so, and another standard shopping campaign at a 10-cent bid. So we're we're gonna kind of use that same strategy I always recommend, but just start the high bid campaign at a 50-cent bid, and you're gonna let this run for about 1 to 2 months, because within this 1 to 2 month period, you're gonna determine how the results are from this campaign, whether they're good results or whether they're bad results. Now there's 5 different scenarios your ads could end up with this high bid standard shopping campaign. The first scenario is when your results are actually good results and your budget is fully getting spent. This is your ideal situation, which you want to achieve, where you're getting good ROAS, you're profitable, you're getting results, and your budget is fully getting spent. The real way to go about this is just to continue scaling by increasing the budget. The second scenario here is where you're actually getting bad results, meaning you're probably at break-even ROAS or you're even in a loss fully. And the thing is, you're actually spending your entire budget while achieving these results at a full-on loss or at a break-even ROAS. Now this is where you kind of have to go a bit hands-on and determine what the next ideal steps should be. Now this is something you should start doing about 14 to 30 days after you get these results and after you see that the budget is fully getting spent but you're just not profitable. What you do here is you want to lower the bids by 5 cents or so, and if it's very bad, you want to basically be lowering the bid by around 10 cents. But this is when you directly take action on the bid, and you know here that the results are bad but you're spending the full budget, so that means the bid is pretty high. You want to kind of go down a notch. The next situation is where you're actually getting bad results or no results at all, and your budget is actually not fully getting spent. In this situation, you actually increase the bids by about 3 cents to 5 cents, and the reason is if the budget is not fully getting spent, there's a very high chance you might be just underbidding way too much for that given campaign or for those given products, and in this case it's not ideal to lower the bid. I actually recommend increasing the bid by just a few cents and see that once it starts spending the full budget if you're actually getting results or not. And if you're just not getting results in total, then I actually recommend you increase the bid by 3 cents to 5 cents. A lot of the times if you're bidding way too low, like for example, a lot of times I would bid around 35 cents or 40 cents for my standard shopping campaigns, and I would actually not get profitable results at all, or I would not even get any results. And people might think that the bid is too high. In that case, you might want to lower it, but actually increasing the bid by 3 cents to 5 cents would do the trick. So that is what you want to be doing for this first case situation when you have that general testing campaign running at that 50-cent bid. And for the 10-cent bid campaign, you don't necessarily want to do any kind of action. Just let it run, let it just capture all those lost sales in the background. This brings me to strategy number 2, and this is a bit more aggressive strategy, because in this case what you will be doing is you'll actually be launching that same exact process of one general testing campaign high bid, one general testing campaign low bid at 10 cents. But in this situation, that high bid campaign is gonna be $1. And the reason for that is because we wanna be very aggressive in the beginning, and you wanna get as much data, as much results possible within the first 3 weeks to 4 week time period, because once you get all of that data, you are gonna know whether that bid is good bid or whether that's a bad bid, and most likely that will be a bad bid. So what you can do once you have kind of gathered this data super fast is lower that bid by cutting it in half. So change it from $1 to 50 cents. And this is going to be a better approach for you, simply because now you already got that data as fast as possible. You sped up through the data optimization process and the data gathering process. You no longer have to just spend weeks and days more just trying to get more data, because you already did that with very aggressively. So now you can just run it at a 30 cent, 40 cent, and I recommend 50-cent bid in this case, and do the same steps as I recommended in strategy number 1. Decrease based on the results or increase based on the results. But this brings me to strategy number 3, and this is kind of a more laid back approach, a much more slower approach, and I only recommend this if you have a very limited budget, and that is start that high bid general testing campaign at a 30-cent bid. In most situations, this will be too low of a bid just because of the competition in 2022, so most likely you're gonna have to increase the bids over time. But this is going to be a very slow approach. Within the first 2 to 3 weeks, you might not even spend any money. So that's when you just start increasing the bids by 10 cents. And then as you get higher and higher, start increasing it by only 5 cents. And what this is going to do is it's going to let you kind of break into the campaigns, break into the bidding, and just help you get an overall idea of what's the right bid, what's not the right bid, etc. And again, low bid campaign, just leave it at a 10-cent bid. But that's pretty much it, the 3-step process as to what I do when I want to break in with a shopping campaign in a brand new ad account. You can use any of these strategies depending on which situation you are in. If you're in a high budget strategy where you have a lot of budget to spare, go with strategy number 1 or number 2. If you don't have too big of a budget, go with strategy number 3. But that's pretty much it for shopping campaigns. Let's move on to search campaigns. Now with search campaigns, it's a bit interesting because now you actually have tools at your disposal which you can use to determine the bids. And for the sake of this example, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going over to the keyword planner tool and searching up one of my main examples, which is a 3D printer, to show you guys exactly what I mean. So we're going to go ahead and type in 3D printer. For you can just type in the main keyword which your products are revolving around, or you can just type in any given keyword if you want to just practice right over here. So make sure English is chosen because you want to make sure you're typing English keywords and just hit get results. So the main tool you want to be using to do keyword and basically bidding research for search campaigns is the keyword planner tool. And there's a very special section which I like to use within the keyword planner tool, and that is called the top of page bid high range. So in order to make sure you're using the right kind of keywords, you want to set up certain filters. The first filter is called average monthly searches. You want to make sure this is greater than or equal to 300, because anything less than 300 and it's just not ideal for you to be ranking for those keywords at all. Next filter you want to set up is top of page bid. So just type right in top of, and then you should see top of page bid high range. You want to set that up, and you don't want this to be more than $25. In this case, this account is in Danish currency, so I'm just going to type in 25. But if this was USD, I would still type in 25 USD. So in this case, I'm just going to type in 25, and we want to make sure this is actually less than or equal to, not greater than or equal to. The main reason is because these bids are telling you what people are bidding, the highest bids on that given keyword. So for example, 3D printer within the United States, the highest bids for the first page range around 14 euros per click. That's right, 14 euros per click. Extremely expensive. So obviously, if your budget is limited, you don't want to be spending 14 euros per click. This might not be an ideal keyword for you. But on the other hand, this might be a better keyword for you because it's only 7 euros per click. So this is the main section I'm using, and I want to make sure all of these keywords which are ranking here are less than $25 per click. Of course, these are just ranges overall and estimates. These are fully accurate numbers. However, I just like to use these numbers to do my research. But this is what I kind of look at to determine what bid I should be using. And again, what I like to do is I like to kind of come up with a certain number of keywords which are within my bidding range and which are within the same bids along with each other. So for example, if I want to bid for this keyword right here, I'm going to look at all the other keywords and make sure their bids are around 7.71 euros. So for example, this I would not be bidding for within the same ad group as this, simply because the bid is way too high here. So what I would rather be bidding for with this keyword is maybe this one because it's in the same range, and this one as well. Maybe not this one, maybe not this one, but definitely this one. So what I like to do research here and determine my bids is just group all the keywords which are of course similar to each other in terms of the relevance, but also in terms of the bids themselves. And then maybe I can just write a maximize clicks bid limit of 7 euros or 6 euros, whatever the case may be, and these have a better chance of working. But that's basically how I determine my bids for the keywords. Just look at the top of page bid high range and go from there. But now you want to keep these things in mind. But we're not done yet, because there's a few key things you should know about bids and what you should be keeping in mind in order to get long-term success with Google Ads, whether you're doing shopping or search campaigns. And number one is bidding is an art. There is no real right or wrong answer, and there is no real main number that anybody can give you, not even me. For any of my e-commerce clients under my agency, Yoru Marketing, I always test around with different bids to make sure that we are bidding at the right steps, at the right number for that given niche, because every niche is different. And same thing for my own e-commerce brand, because at the end of the day, bidding is an art. There is no right or wrong bid. It's just what is going to get you profitable. For some people, a $3 maximized clicks bid is going to lead them to a lot of sales profitably. For other people, it's going to devastate their account. So you want to make sure that you're bidding according to your products and your overall competition, because one thing you want to understand is bidding is actually not based on your product prices or how established your e-commerce brand is in total. Now, what do I mean by this exactly? What I mean is, of course, if your Google Ads account has been running for a very long time, it has a lot of data, you're naturally going to be bidding a bit lower than somebody else who just started with Google Ads in that same niche, and that's because your Google Ads account is smart. But bidding is entirely based on competition for that niche. I've sold a lot of products for my e-commerce clients, again under my agency Yoru Marketing, where the average order value is $2,000 to $10,000, and we're getting good results at 50-cent bids. whereas other products, their average selling price is $5, $10, maximum $20, and they're not finding any results even with a bid as high as $2, and they're at a full-on loss because with a bid of 40 cents, 50 cents, 60 cents, their products don't spend anything. So this is kind of how it ranges. It depends entirely on the specific niche and how much competition there is, not on the selling price of the product. So you want to keep that in mind. But that is pretty much all you need to really be knowing about bidding. Just kind of play around with the bids, follow these 3 strategies that I mentioned for shopping, and follow that research strategy for search campaigns to get the best kinds of results. But if this is too much for you, you would rather get help for your e-commerce brand, go on to my website at yourmarketing.com if you're doing over $30,000 in sales or more, and if you want to scale further with Google Ads, and book a free strategy call with me to see how I can help you scale your e-commerce brand to the next level. Again, this strategy call is fully free. There's no obligations. You get a full free strategy report at the end, and you get it even if we don't work out together. So again, euromarketing.com to book that free call. But if you found any type of value in this video, destroy that like button and destroy that subscribe button, and I will see you in my next video.